Hello, welcome back to the channel. And Watford Football Club have won another game of football. Come on, get in. Really happy with that. I'm always happy when Watford win, regardless of the circus that is going on around our managerial position. And we'll get on to Paulo and the game that was played out in just a moment. But firstly, I want to give a massive shout out to Jeff, one of our viewers of the channel, who kindly gifted me and my brother hospitality in the view for yesterday's game. It was certainly a marked change from my normal season ticket seat and was probably the poshest food I've ever ate at a football match. So I really appreciate Jeff's kind generosity, and also a big shout out to Owen as well, who pulled me aside outside the ground for a quick photo. It was great to meet you, Owen. Hopefully next time we can have a longer chat. But Storm Amy was wrecking havoc across Hertfordshire yesterday. The wind was so strong, I was being blown around all over the place and wanted to get back to the car and drive home. But hopefully next time, Owen, we can have a longer chat. And it was great to meet you, of course, once again outside the ground. Okay, let's talk first about PP, Paulo Pezzano. What is going on with him? Will he stay? Will he go? Let's talk about that now. And as I'm sure many of you have seen, there has been strong speculation and rumour in the last 24 hours on social media suggesting that was indeed his last game in charge of the Golden Boys and a change may be made. I've seen a few names linked with Watford. I've heard similar over the past couple of weeks as well. And whilst I don't know myself if Paulo is staying or going, I'm not privy to that information. There are strong, rumours and hints suggesting that he will no longer be in charge of Watford. And if that is the case, I would fully expect maybe later today or tomorrow on Monday, as I record this, for a club statement to be made. And firstly, would I agree with the decision? I probably would. I would agree with the choice to let Paulo go. I think the comparison I would make is probably to, and I get they're different situations, but I would compare it to probably Chris Wilder at Sheffield United, where they let Chris Wilder go to bring in Ruben Sellers. You had a completely different style of football and a completely different style of man management. And they very quickly realised after 5 or 6 games that, quite frankly, Ruben and Sheffield United weren't really a match made in heaven. And I think it's clear with Paulo, especially with his relationship with us as supporters, there's not really any relationship there at all. So I do think in that regard, it's right we make change. Of course, Sheffield United have had a far worse start to the season than Watford have. Watford, out of the past 9 points, have picked up 7, which is actually a decent return in the Championship. We can't moan too much about that. And whilst people, including myself, have question marks over Paulo's tactics and substitutions, and that was evident once again yesterday, I think the big issue for me is ultimately his ability to communicate freely and openly with the fan base. And unfortunately for him, and I think this is a big factor in why he may lose his job, he's never really been able to forge that connection with us, the fans, and him, the manager. We seem, us and Tom Cleverley were like this. We were together. We were all on board with what our goals were. Tom Cleverley, in my opinion, could have been a fantastic long-term project, but Gino Pozzo ripped us apart. We were good friends with Tom, and we let him go. Whereas with Paulo, he's come in looking to forge that connection. But because we loved Tom so much, it seems like the Watford fans have just never warmed to Paulo maybe as quickly as he would have wanted. And I feel that's been a big factor in fan discontent towards him. Of course, tactics have been odd at times. Starting 11s have been strange. Substitutions coming on at the wrong time. Kwadwo Bar yesterday in the 85th minute was a prime example. But I do feel the reason we turned against Paulo so quickly is ultimately his lack of ability to communicate, not only with us, but also with the players. And I do feel that's been evident in his quotes on the Watford website, the Watford Observer, Radio Free Counties, for example. He requires the use of a translator quite quickly into trying to speak English. but also his man management of the players. I feel it's quite evident that it's not great between, for example, Iran Kunda, Duomo, Doumbia, Kwadwo Bar, as well as another example. Apparently, Kwadwo kicked off yesterday after full time. He was kicking bottles down the tunnel, quite rightly furious at only receiving 5 minutes. Iran Kunda taken off after half an hour away at Portsmouth. So I think there's a lot of issues at play. It all factors into probably the decision to let him go. And of course, if the decision does get made, I'll talk about this more at length in another video. But yeah, I do feel it's right we part ways. It's very rare for me to agree with a sack. And I have to say, looking over the past, 10, 11, 12 managers we've had, usually I'm quite rightly furious at the decision. I want to build a long-term project. But looking at the squad and the players that will leave next summer, most probably, I do feel it's last chance saloon. Bar, Vatter, Caben, Selvik, Loser, Wiley, Max Elaine, the list goes on. All these players are probably going to depart Watford next year, which is why it's so important we give this as best a shot as we possibly can this season at getting into the playoff positions. And if Paulo isn't that man, as I don't believe he is, I think we need to make that change now and really push on as much as possible. So, yeah, that's a long-winded way of me saying, Paulo, thank you very much for what you've done, but I think it is time we part ways. Now, feel free to disagree in the comments down below. I'm happy to have free speech and discussion on here. Do not worry, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but that is where I stand with Paulo Pezzano. But I do have to give him some credit, of course. The game that was played yesterday actually was probably one of the better matches we've seen under PP. I thought the starting 11 as a whole was more well balanced. It was great to see Caleb Wiley start on the left-hand side. Rocco Vatter coming back into the team as well after his performance off the bench at Portsmouth. So on the whole, bar maybe Vivaldo Semedo, I was pretty happy and content. I would love to see Hector Cipriani get a start at some point again. I do feel Kwadwo Bar on the bench, as I mentioned, is wasted as well. Even in the 5 minutes he had yesterday, he made a real impact on the game. So yeah, still question marks over PP, of course, but that was probably one of his better team selections. And let's talk about Jeremy Ngakia, because, yeah, I certainly didn't expect him to score at all yesterday, let alone 2 goals, one coming direct from a corner. So, yeah, congratulations to Jeremy. Fair play to him as well, because, yeah, I've rightly criticised Ngakia during his time at Watford. He's one of the longest serving players at the club currently. He might be the longest serving, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel towards the end of last season and at the start of this season, he's really come into his pomp and prime as a player. It feels like Jeremy Ngakia now belongs at Watford. He's one of the first names on the clean sheet. It seems like he's quite a leader on the pitch as well. He's very vocal. Defensively, he's good. Offensively, he's now contributing a lot more as well. Of course, he got to the back post for his first goal, scoring directly from the corner for his second. So, yeah, all in all, very pleased for Ngakia. And, yeah, he's certainly showing the quality and potential he had when he was much younger. So, congratulations to Jezza. 2 good goals from him yesterday. And he ultimately won Watford the game. And on the whole, I thought we were quite wasteful, actually, with the opportunities we had. Matt Furness from Opta, who I've spoken to many times, he's a Watford fan himself, put out a nice graphic on Twitter showing how many shots we had. And it was the most shots we've had in the game since Arsenal at home back in 2019. 27 shots on goal for Watford yesterday. Now, of course, not all of them were clear-cut, high XG opportunities, but for me, it was just refreshing to watch Watford get into decent positions and have a pop on goal, because how many times do I say it? It's very simple, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. And I do feel Watford at times have been guilty of faffing around with the ball, passing it from side to side, trying to create the highest XG moment possible, when actually have a pop on goal. It might take a deflection here and there. You might get lucky. And we saw that certainly on the show yesterday. Iran Kunda probably should have had a couple, as should Rocco Vata. Loser had a couple of shots from range as well. Wiley and Ngakia getting involved. Even the centre-backs at times were playing really wide and high up on the wings. So, yeah, I found it very entertaining yesterday. I felt it was a 50-50 game at times, whilst Oxford were very open, and I thought their goalkeeper was really poor. They had opportunities themselves. So it certainly wasn't the perfect performance. If Paulo stays, there's definitely stuff to work on. Again, from set-piece situations, Watford, well, this time Max Elaine scoring an own goal. But yeah, once again, getting, just not getting that first contact on, whether it's long throws, corners, free kicks. Watford just don't seem that aggressive in certainly the first half of football matches. And as I said, especially from set-piece situations. So certainly stuff to work on. I think I'll leave it there for my match reaction, because I am expecting potentially an imminent announcement from Watford on Paulo's future. And on that, very briefly before I go, if I'm in charge of Watford communications, there's two things you can do really. And they did this with Tom Cleverley in January when rumours come out around his future. They can put out a club statement from Gino or Juan Lucanani stating they're fully behind Paulo and are backing him for the foreseeable future. Or they can leave it, they can let the rumours gain momentum. And ultimately, I do feel Paulo will end up getting sacked. I think it's very telling that Watford haven't chosen to put out any sort of vote of confidence or a statement backing Paulo. I do think that non-statement in itself probably says a lot about their current position, and it's well documented. I've heard myself from sources close to the situation, as have others. There are a few players in the squad who maybe aren't featuring as much, and they're very unhappy at their current situation and also the situation at the club generally. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Delighted with the win once again, and if that was Paulo's last game, I'll shake hands, I'll say thank you very much, and we can all move on, hopefully, to bigger and better things. Do let me know your thoughts on the game and Paulo Pezzano in the comments down below. And of course, if anything major does break, I will be here probably doing some sort of video or live stream to dissect everything with you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.